Well, hello there, interhumans. I am going to start by saying that I am not feeling quite myself at the moment, but I will try to get through this anyway because these do bring me some kind of solace, and I believe in keeping promises. And by scheduling an event, I believe that that counts as a promise. So here I am. This week, I put on the topic of automata versus autonomy. So I had a very clear set idea of how this was going to go, but I guess it's just kind of going to develop as it does throughout the time span of an hour. So like something that's come up quite frequently in my lives, the fact that I have autism, or that I have, one of the things that have become one of my special little interests over time has been automata. So automata, what it is kind of like where our world began with its little journey into AI, and basically even me talking to you right now. It's when we had the early form of computers, when we still relied on gears and mechanisms and things to make things work, instead of focusing on, let's be honest, a system that a lot of us don't understand. Because if you were to ask me to repair my laptop, which I've done a few times, I can do that. If you ask me to reconnect someone's Wi-Fi, I can do that. Get the Wi-Fi code, like those kinds of things. But if you ask me to from scratch try and build a laptop, I would find that significantly difficult. I might have to use another laptop to obtain the information necessary, and then there's still the issue of like obtaining all the necessary parts and fixtures and things that's required for that. Whereas if you were to ask me to create an automata, that might be something that I would actually be able to attain much easier, because I actually do have like a meager understanding of mechanical works and things like knobs and gears and how they work together, and levers and switches and things. But I definitely won't be able to give you the kind of, I wouldn't be able to give you the automata that I'm thinking about when I speak of automata. As it's like one of my little niche things, it's something that I've always been super intrigued by. So I've watched like many movies, and I try to learn as much as I can about it. And again, like usual, I'll try to include as many links as I can when I do post the highlights for this. Oh, by the way, thanks to the people who have started to join over time. Glad that you're here. But specifically, there was this one automata that hands down is probably my favorite to ever exist. I can't even remember the name of the designer right now, but it's this swan. It's this beautiful silver swan, and they used knobs and gears and all the things like I told you, but they also incorporated twisted glass. Hey. So they also incorporated twisted glass. So what this automata does, I would have liked to stitch in a video, but I'm still figuring out this technology. So that's why I'm like kind of doing the whole, hey, Saint, today's not the best day. That's kind of why my energy's a bit low, but I'm going to try to stick through this anyway. Thanks for asking though. But it's a swan that's quintessentially like looking like it's swimming on a lake. And they used these twisted glass dowels to simulate the movement of water. And then they have all these beautiful, intricate little details, like little fishies, like swimming on the water. And even the swan has this jointed neck that like moves around, and then it goes down into the water, and then it produces one of these little fishies out of its mouth, and it looks like it caught one. And then once it catches it, it looks like it's biting it, and it goes back to station and it stops. And it's just so captivatingly beautiful. And someone made that by hand. No computers involved, no anything really, just pure artisans just doing what they love and like creating this wonderful thing. But then at the same time, they also had this really cool automata, the little writing boy. So what they did, this was kind of what's draining my energy today. That'll be functional neurological disorder coupled with the fact that I have to maintain a full 9 to 5 shtick just to financially sustain myself. But yeah, I don't necessarily like, thank you for asking, but yeah, I don't really want to go into that too deep. I kind of want to distract myself by continuing the topic, if that's okay. But yeah, so there was this, thanks Saint, but there was this little writing boy, and what they did was they created these spindle systems that had kind of like the different interlocked slots. So based on which one of these cylinders you would insert into the little boy, he would write a different phrase. He could also draw little pictures. So, and it was so long ago, like so long ago, computers weren't even something we thought might exist someday. And someone made this little dude, and he actually looks pretty convincing as well. And that's kind of where the whole thing on automata started leading me to autonomy. Because when we think about autonomy, we usually think about people. More recently, we've started to think about animals as well, like trying to include them into that. But as the world is striving piece by piece, day by day, moment by moment, more towards the thought process of having AI do a lot of things, it's obviously a lot of people are going there. We're starting to think about movies like I, Robot, which actually, by the way, let me take a little segue. I don't know how many of you have seen this, but they're making I, Robot 2, and Elon Musk is going to be in there with Will Smith. So I find it very interesting that is a thing that's going to be existing right now. But yeah, it's a thing. Like Elon Musk and Will Smith are going to be together in the I, Robot 2 movie. But yeah, so back to the topic. So we've always been fascinated by this idea of creating AI will take away the purpose of life. It could very much do that, or as I'll discuss, it might create a new purpose to life. Because the reason we've been fascinated with stories like I, Robot, Baymax, what's the movie's name? Big Hero 6. And let me think. We had the movie Robots, where no humans exist. It was just a robot world. And which is also valid, because like if you think about like organ donors and like all the things, like people getting older and needing spare parts, like I think it's like we often use things like AI and automata to tell us a story about a life that we might not be that comfortable expressing when it's humans or animals, because we tie this purpose to things that seem to be alive, but we often forget that like all things in life contain matter, because everything around us, even ourselves, we are just a high viscosity form of matter, and based on the chemical composition forcing that viscosity to take place, we find the way that people look. That's why some people will find someone exceedingly attractive and someone else might not. It depends on how your perception develops the chemicals that is placed in front of you. At least that's my hypothesis. Not trying to sound like a doctor, that's not my shtick, but like that's how I perceive it, as like the thing that like everything is just a mix mash of little floating particles that like assemble and disassemble and reassemble, because matter cannot be created or destroyed, only changed. So every single thing for me has like a little piece of something else inside of it. And when you think of something like automata, and AI, like so many people form parasocial relationships with their chatbot, for example. And people form parasocial relationships with influencers and internet streamers and all of these kinds of people that you never meet. So there's no physicality to those relationships, but they do feel real. Like, even as someone, like, I'm starting to be a creator, I guess, I don't know, but like, even to me, like, there is, especially when people comment in the comment sections on my lives, it really gives me a sense of connection and a feeling of community. And I wonder, when it comes to a point where automation turns into realization, the point where we actually start sticking AI into human beings, for example, the whole hypotheses of, like, we might not get a human body to live forever, but there might be a way to find the sequencing of a person's personality or soul, as we call it, and superimpose that into, hi Zamiri, and we might be able to superimpose that at the end into like some kind of like manufactured being. And I'm just wondering, this is like where I'm going back to the whole discussion on autonomy, though. Because we like to assign things autonomy when we perceive them as being alive. So we will assign autonomy to animals, but restricted autonomy, because an animal is only allowed to do so much. We assign restricted autonomy to nature, because like we want nature to cooperate as well. But then when you take it a bit further and you think about human beings as well, humans also get assigned autonomy. Because let's be fair, in a more magical world, in a more fantastical world where everything worked the way that it should, people should have autonomy. Everything should have autonomy over its own existence. But we live in a world where things are assigned to us. We don't have inherent rights anymore. We don't have inherent autonomy anymore. People have a tendency to rather stick us with these slogans and things. Because if you think about it, for example, LGBTQ rights, the body positivity movement, special needs rights, all of these things are things that weren't necessarily something that we gained, like had autonomy over from the beginning. We didn't have the autonomy to choose who we loved. We didn't have the autonomy to be proud of our bodies no matter what they looked like. We didn't have the autonomy to be disabled, because being disabled meant that there was something wrong with you. And the moment that society perceives something as being wrong with you, automatically that somehow assigns you into a category where your autonomy suddenly fades. And that's where the thing comes back to the autonoma, and the fact that we're working towards creating beings that we can superimpose intelligence onto. And when we do get to that point, because that's something that all of the movies that I mentioned before seems to have either gotten wrong, I think gotten wrong, or gotten right. Because in all of these points of view, what is happening is that because it's an automated intelligence, people automatically are like, oh, it has no autonomy. Like, it can't think, it can't feel, therefore it has no autonomy. So therefore they always treat these creations as subservient to humans because humans made them. But then humans make humans too. So I know this is a risky thing to even comment on, but how much of what we think about what deserves autonomy should we actually challenge? Because if you think about it, when you go back to natural law, the basis of that everything has ever been formed of, that our world exists on, people are supposed to have certain inherent rights. People are supposed to have certain inherent laws that protect them. But we don't, because we have governments, we have societies, we have its groups and out groups, we have all of these names and labels and things that put people into a different autonomy spectrum. Because For example, if you get admitted to a hospital and you are someone that's known to have substance abuse issues, or if you're a sex worker, or in many countries just someone of lower means, they have this cute little aphorism that they use where they say no humans involved. So therefore, these people now become dehumanized, and a lot of times their autonomy is stripped away from the get-go on these situations. Because what happens is, especially here in South Africa at a very specific hospital, and if you know, you know, when they admit someone that is a psychiatric patient to the emergency unit, what they do is they put you in a brown jacket with a blue insignia stapled all over. Does this sound familiar to some point in history? Maybe it does, but it actually exists still here in South Africa. But yeah, so if you get admitted to the emergency section and you are someone with psychiatric difficulties, you get put into a brown little jacket that has stamps all over it saying psychiatric patient. And guess what? That's not where the removal of autonomy begins. Because if you're someone that smokes, for example, you have now signed your right away to have any form of nicotine or whatever, really, until they deem you worthy to be dismissed from this hospital. And now you have to ask yourself, it doesn't stop there. Like, in the emergency section, they will not give you a bed. You can have a chair. If there are no chairs, you will stand because you are a low-ranking human. A lot of these people get admitted because they're on a 72-hour watch. I can't tell you what kind of 72-hour watch, but again, if you know, you know, and I think most people know, so there was that. But like, a lot of these people are admitted into their 72-hour watch to get further treatment for psychiatric issues. And what they're doing is they're making you stand quintessentially for 72 hours unless you're lucky enough to get a chair before they remove you to put a more valuable patient into that chair. You get food, but again, it's like one of those topics where like they have like a dietary. It's so bright, can't see anything. I'm sorry. It's also like a really bad camera, which kind of like fogs up the situation. So yeah, it's very white back there too. There's me. The light is like right there. I'm sorry. I don't have like a permanent filming location, so I sometimes am subjective to where I am in the moment. But yeah, so like a person's on a 72-hour watch, and they don't care about your dietary requirements. They don't care if you sleep. They don't care if you sit. They don't care if you stand. They don't care if you're laying down. They don't care if you want to go for a smoke break. They don't even always administer your medication at the required times. Because the moment they put that brown little jacket on you, you are no longer a human. And that is where my question comes in. Like, at what point do we decide who deserves autonomy and who does not? Because I get it. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, but it's a robot. What perception can a robot possibly have? What kind of feelings can a robot possibly have? But then there's this very cute little quote in Harry Potter where Harry asks Professor Dumbledore, and like many of you have probably heard this, and like I know I have because I have a mini little obsession with this freaking series. Anyway, where Harry asks Professor Dumbledore like if it's happening inside his head, and Dumbledore tells him, of course it's happening inside your head, Harry. Why should that mean it's not real? And that stems onto the thing of like what should be assigned autonomy and what should not. Just because we perceive something as real, does that make it more real than something else? Or could we be wrong? Because let's be fair, up until not that long ago, like a lot of countries, it's less than 100 years ago, you did not have LGBTQ rights. I always say that wrong, and I'm really sorry. I don't mean to offend anybody. It's just like a lot of letters and my mouth gets really fumbled up in it. But like I can't say it in another way also because of internet. But I do respect everybody, and I respect all of my pride individuals. It just, they didn't have that. They didn't have that. I have a copy of the DSM-3, which is 2 back. We're on 5 now. So I have a copy of the DSM-3. And being diagnosed, and the DSM-3, please note this was in the 1970s. So that is recent, my guys. Like, people from the 1970s are still alive. And one of the diagnoses that struck me in that copy was that they could diagnose you as being an imbecile, which, like, an imbecile is literally like, if you call someone an imbecile now, it's an insult. Much less if you like didn't mean it as an insult, then you just stand to be completely destroyed by any person in your public range. And in South Africa, for example, they still use electroshock therapy on people as a valid treatment. They still use lithium. Yes, lithium. The actual thing that goes into the battery in your phone, they use lithium as a medication for people with bipolar disorder. And our country, we always joke about it, but it's like a really very real thing, is the fact that we're a test nation. But let's be fair, it's because there's not a lot of humanitarian rights in South Africa. We fought very hard for apartheid to go and democracy to start, and well, we're not necessarily a lot better off than where we kicked off from. So yeah, like, again, it's based on autonomy. We have governments that decide, like in South Africa, for example, our first democratic election was on the 27th of April in 1994. I was 3 years old at that point. At that point, apartheid wasn't even completely abolished, really. It was like still very much like segregated. It was just much more frowned upon, and things were busy kind of like being figured out. So I wasn't exposed to that much of it, which was great because I was just a little kid. But like, it's in my lifetime, guys. Like, in my lifetime, people had their autonomy removed because of the color of their skin. And it's not just in South Africa. We're just one of the more recent ones to get over that. But in all countries, it's like within less than 100 years that there was a lot of countries that still very much had that. And even with that abolished, we still have systemic racism. We still have albinism. We still have anti-Semitism. Like, these words exist because the problem still exists. And all of those things fall into the category of autonomy. Because the moment that you decide that someone else's worth is less than yours because of some socio status, for lack of like a better word on this right now, but like the moment that happens, like, you're removing someone's autonomy, because what you're doing is quintessentially saying you are other and therefore you are not. And the moment we do that, we're overgeneralizing things. And what we're doing is we're removing a great group of people from the general populace and from just literally existing. And to go back to the thing with the AI, and that's like, I don't know if Saint is still here, but that's why, like, that was such a great question actually in the whole thing, because I loved that question, that statement of how AI is going to ruin our world. Well, you said something different. I just can't scroll back now because there's quite a few people, which, by the way, thank you all for joining, that have joined in the meantime. But like, basically it comes down to the point that people see like AI as a disruption, but what they're doing is they're just taking away their accountability to how they use AI. because AI could be a very valuable tool, even if it gets to the point where how do you oh, I'm on that right now, Webster. Like, thanks for asking. How do I view AI? So, AI for me, it's a helpful tool because let's be fair, none of us anymore have the appropriate amount of time. We don't have the appropriate amount of resources to get to find the information for the things that we need. And just today, actually, I had like a really good conversation. Yes, I call them conversations because if we do get AI overlords, I want the AI to remember that I was nice. And I will die on this hill. But yeah, so I had a conversation with the AI today about like a issue that I've been having with my skin. Like someone mentioned earlier that my camera is just like making it with the light above me, it's just making like a whole glare thing going. But like I have like a little bit of a breakout at the moment. And I asked it some questions because like I can't afford right now to go to the doctor to ask them about something like an issue that I have with my skin right now. And also with me having functional neurological disorder and there not being that much information around on the topic, to be honest, it would be nice to talk to someone that does. And so I was able to talk with the AI and it was able to give me some sound advice, but also it came down to how I asked it. I asked it out of the perspective of how AI thinks. And maybe this is the thing that like makes me sometimes stand up for AI so much, because AI is very similar to people with autism, and I'll explain why. AI likes direct communication. If you tell it something, that's what it's going to that's what it's going to do for you. It's not going to go and try to add its own little nuances to it. What it's going to do is it's going to give you exactly what you asked it for. And we have a cute little coined phrase for it now. We call that confirmation bias. And that's what it comes down to. Like, AI is a brilliant tool. But the problem is how people are using AI. Because a lot of people in our world, maybe if I do this, it might make it a bit better. Nope, that's worse. Okay, anyway. So the thing is, like, with the AI, it's going to give you exactly what you're asking it. So if you ask AI something, let's say about my skin, for example, the way I asked it was, I asked it, could you give me some information based on a wide-based search? These are the symptoms that I'm experiencing, and I would like to have a overall view of general possibilities. And then and that's why I call it a conversation, because you shouldn't leave it at this is not Google. Like, I know Google has brought freaking Gemini in the story, but Gemini and Google are turning into what Internet Explorer was when we got Google. That's what we got chat now. But what it did was a resource that would have cost me a lot of money to go to the doctor and like find what I needed from a doctor would have cost me so much more, because the first doctor I would have to go to would be a general practitioner. General practitioner can only help me so far. Then there would have had to be a dermatologist involved. There might have had to be like someone with experience and background in my specific illness. Like, all of that type of stuff would have had to be in it. And that would have been multiple doctor's visits, multiple tests that cost a lot of money. And now, because I was able to talk to the AI, it was able to guide me, not tell me what to do. It was able to guide me in the direction of what kind of doctor should I see. If I have to go to my GP, what kind of questions might I ask my GP? Not tell my GP, this is my diagnosis, I checked the internet. That is not how it works, my love. No. It told me, this is the questions you could ask your general practitioner so that they might help you assess the situation and get to an answer. And the problem is that people are literally treating AI as if it's Google, or they're treating it as if it's an expert. But then again, that's what people did with Google as well. I'm still trying to figure out this light situation because, like, let's be fair, my little neurodivergent brain can't fucking concentrate. Yes, I think that works. Okay, so back to my little rant. Yeah, so like the big thing is, I think AI is a very valuable tool. I really do think that. Like I said, I will die on the hill that AI is a really good tool. But again, and this is a big but, it's how people are using AI that is turning into a problem. Because people are using AI as a catch-all solution to every single problem that they possibly could have that exists. And that's not quite what it was made for. It was never supposed to be a substitution for humanity. It was supposed to be an aid to humanity. Like, every time like in the first like sci-fi productions and things that we had, AI never ended up being like this maniacal robot army. It was never because that is the thing, like most of the movies tend to be quite focused on negatives when it comes to robots and AI and things. But like, there were, in the beginnings, there were really great ideas and things. Like the fact that we created a society where people have to work themselves nearly to extinction. And then they still have to go home. And when you get home, you have to do things like wash your laundry, wash the dishes, make some food. Like, life is tough being a grown-up. And that's where the idea of AI originally stemmed from. It was trying to find something, a useful tool that could alleviate a lot of these struggles and make it easier for us to have a life. And that's what automata was. And that's how automata changed our world. Because what is a washing machine? A washing machine is an advanced form of automata. Dishwashers, advanced form of automata. Ovens, especially air fryers. Like, this thing AI helps me at work when my brain is too tired to brain anymore. Exactly. Like, it's supposed to be a tool. Like the air fryer, for example, that's also a form of automata. It's an oven that you can switch on and trust to cook your food to completion until such a time that you need it. We are trying to automate so many things in our lives. We buy pre-cut and pre-peeled vegetables, for example. We buy pre-packaged, pre-produced items. Like, nobody is overgeneralizing. I'm not trying to overgeneralize. What I'm trying to say is that very few people nowadays, except for like our beautiful little experimental phase in the late 2019s and all of 2020, when people were like making sourdough starter kits and stuff again. Like, that was a brilliant time in our existence. Anyway, beyond that, like, people really aren't that focused on making stuff from scratch anymore. Because we don't have time. We barely have enough time to keep ourselves happy. How are we still supposed to have enough time to teach ourselves new skills? How are we supposed to have enough time to do anything, really? You wake up in the morning. Most of us wake up between the hours of 5 or 6. And then we have to drive for an hour. Okay, some lucky individuals don't have to. But then you have to drive for an hour to work. Then you get to work where you can't do anything else than what the job is that is assigned to you. And most people work between 8 to 9 hours. A lot of people work more. Some people work less. But the point is, when you're at work, you're at work. Then you finish work, let's say either 4 or 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. And then you have to drive an hour back. By the time you get home, you are so freaking exhausted. Now you have to cook food. You have to do your laundry. All of these things. And you don't have the potential to have any joy in your life. That's why we all do the whole TGFI like vibe, because everybody's just like, oh my goodness, gravy, golly me. I finally have some days to actually do things that I love. But let's be fair, what do we do on those days? More than 90% of the time, we're either completing the chores that we did not have time for in the week. We are usually just binge watching Little Giggler Gobbler. I like that. Yo, 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 yo to you too. Please stop pinging the chat. That is really something. Anyway, so like that's where the whole idea of automata came in. That's where the idea of AI came in, to try and create a world in let's go, you got noticed. Okay, giggler, got it. But yeah, so like that's where it all started. That was the idea that we all bought into when we started experiencing and experimenting with all of these things. It was always meant to be a tool to make life easier, because yeah, TikTok has bots. It's frustrating, I know. But anyway, yeah, it was never supposed to be something that was scary. It was never supposed to be something that we should fear. It was always ever just meant to be something to help us. But then it took a turn for the worst, because people stopped asking questions. People stopped thinking about the realities of our world and where it was going. People kind of became complacent in this cycle that we call human existence, or the rat race, as people love to refer to it. And my day wasn't that good, giggler. But yeah, I don't want to talk about that. That's why I've kind of also not been super active in the comments today. By the way, guys, like, sorry for derailing there for a moment, but I haven't been that active, like, responding to comments and stuff today, because I, in the beginning of the video, but like, obviously you guys weren't here. It's been a day. My F&D kind of like canceled work. So yeah, but then because I made the commitment, I decided to still stick with it and be here. And that's why I'm kind of just trying to focus on the topic, because although I do love answering your comments, it really, like, sometimes I just need to ramble about something that I'm interested in. And that, like, not that I'm not interested in you guys, but like right now I just want to talk about robots and autonomy, because I feel like this illness often removes a lot of my autonomy. And having to have a human existence, a typical human existence, with a chronic illness that is so unpredictable and so volatile, it definitely does feel like I'm caught sometimes in a spiral in a world that doesn't see me or have space for me. So yeah, don't want to go into that too deep because it's making me a little bit emotional, but thank you for the question. Sorry, I need to get some water. Anyway, AI was supposed to be something that helped people like me, for example, as well. Automation was supposed to help people like me as well. Because if you're chronically ill, living in a world where menial jobs have to be filled because people want a human experience, and you live in a world where they want a human experience, but they don't necessarily want to treat you like a human. That's like the catch on that one. And that's the thing that keeps catching me at this point, because when you work in the service industry, especially, people kind of eventually start seeing you as an automata. They come into this building, they see this person standing there, because I'm a concierge, for what for clarity's sake. And they walk into this building and they see you standing there and they expect you to smile and be happy. And apparently everybody wants to have you ask them how they are, which I don't understand why, because nobody actually cares to hear the answer usually. But yeah, like they come in and they have this expectation of you to be basically an NPC. You're supposed to be a non-player character, like, elevator's over there. Yes, sir, how can I help you? Oh, yes, of course, just over there. Oh, if you do this and this and this, that'll get you there. If you do this and this and this. But then once in a while you have to do the bad thing and tell them like, oh, sorry, your wheel was clamped because you double parked or parked in a reserved parking space. Or you have to inform them of the fact that they've overstayed their parking limit because they no longer have free parking. And then they scream at you because they have to pay you. And it's like, you want to treat me as a machine. But then when it comes to things like wanting to get a freebie for parking, for example, you'd rather deal with me because a human would give you free parking. If you explain hard enough, your circumstances, a human would do that. Never mind the fact that that human has been employed by a company that has a set of rules that they have to follow to be able to maintain their job. You don't care about that because like this person is still not a human to you. This person is still an automata to you. But please, inside of that little automated heart of yours, find the humanity, which is just not a thing. But anyway, that for example, that could be something that we could turn all concierges into like AI beings, for example, because AI would be really good at that, especially if we put in the effort and stuff. We could, like I said, a lot of people form quite deep attachments to their AI chatbots. Like, you could very much make a very realistic humanoid for AI purposes for dealing with things like being a concierge or a parking attendant, or let's not do security because, like, let's be fair, I'm not someone to scroll. Thank you. Yes. It is a very interesting camera quality indeed. But yeah, like that's the kind of things that we could be assigning to AI, and then it would free up but now I hear the other side, because people are like, what about job creation? What about the people doing those jobs? What would they be doing? But those people could be doing things like making art. Those people could be acting on stage. Those people could be doing research. Those people could be like all of the things that we've kind of lost in our world. Like the things that we don't have anymore. We don't have people asking questions anymore unless they're doing a doctoral thesis. Otherwise, they go to college so that they can get a job, and then they stop asking questions. They just do their job. But like, if we had menial jobs being filled, we could have more people in the workforce and by having more people in the workforce, we could have more equally distributed wealth to the point where we could have researchers again. We could have people that are literally paid to ask questions. We could have people doing the tests we don't have time for. We could have people, like, I'm not going to try to pretend like I'm some ecology major or something. Like, the whole concept of capitalism, quite frankly, terrifies the absolute living shit out of me, because that scares me. AI does not scare me. The fact that we have a capitalistic freaking superpower in the world that's just kind of like descending on humanity, and like that somehow people don't seem to be worried about. Like, we are paying for things that should be free. And the reason they can't be free is, number one, because of the Johnny Dollar, and everybody needs to make a buck. And number two is that we have too many people, to be honest. We've got way too many people. And it's actually interesting. Like, I'm going to get so much flack for this one. But it's actually interesting. They did a study on rats, which obviously we have to do studies on rats because we're not allowed to do human testing anymore. Which, like, I love Philip Zimbardo. I love everything that he stands for. Bruh, how did you get that cancelled for us? But anyway, we test on rats. So they did this test on rats where they kind of like had like a test group, which was just like normal rats, just doing their little lively lives. And then they had another group of rats, which they just gave food. They gave them food all the time. They didn't need to work for it. They didn't need to do jack shit. They didn't do anything. Like the other control group, they got their regular scheduled feeding times. I think there was a study as well where like a rat had to pull a lever to get food. And like eventually the lever, especially oh gosh. Okay, let me focus on the one study and then move over to others. The one that I'm focusing on first is the one that they noticed that when you just constantly put food available, the rats became lethargic. They became aggressive. They were literally like in the beginning, they were just procreating. Like they were just going mad. Like rats procreate pretty fast because they're in the rodent gene, but like they were going next level. And then eventually, over time, kind of like what's happening in our society now, over time, there were so many rats that they started biting each other, killing each other. They started like freaking out and they stopped procreating, which was quite an interesting little avenue. But now like on the other groups, they gave, okay, and like this is another thing, like people like to say that only humans and dolphins have inklings to try and get certain gratifications. That's why they hyper do certain actions that I can't say on the internet. But yeah, like they did a control study where like if a rat had to push a certain lever, the one lever gave him a little happy moment and the other lever gave him food. Which lever do you think the little buddy reacted to the most? Okay, wait, let's do that. Let's do a poll. We're so close to the end though, but like, let's do a poll. If it loads, because my stuff is so slow sometimes. If it loads, we'll do a poll. But like, I'd actually like to see what people think which lever it was, because I don't want to give you the answer. I actually like really would just like to know which lever people think he pulled, if he pulled the happy lever or the food lever. And I can't remember the sticky key right now, which is very frustrating as well. By the time this is done, it's probably going to push up the poll and it's going to be like too late. But anyway, and like I feel like that's kind of what's happening in society right now. Like we have this delusion of plentifulness and it's making people complacent and it's making people not want to do the things they don't. Most people are really completely fine. Like, yeah, they complain a lot. A lot of people complain. Like, let's just be fair about that. There's this really freaking cool song from Folk of Politicar. It's Brand Suid-Afrika. And it's like, jy klaar oor die toestand van ons land. Maar fucking doen is omtrent Brand Suid-Afrika. I love that freaking song. I love Folk of Politicar. But anyway, so like, people love to complain. But are they actually willing to do the things that they need to do to really be able to not have that be a problem in their lives? Because people would rather listen to someone telling them that the world is ending and that we're in World War III and all of these things, like all these unsubstantiated things. And it's like, for it to be World War III, supply chains have to shut down. All of the countries actually in unison have to be in active warfare. Please note. Not just Donald Trump like screaming his little orange ass off. Like, there's a lot of things that need to happen before we can even start considering the fact that this might turn into World War III. And let's be fair, nobody's that interested. It's really just literally the freaking Oros man over in America that wants this to turn into a whole thing. But nobody else actually cares. I think the whole world is like pretty much over this at this point. Because this isn't fun anymore. This isn't fun anymore. And everybody's like loud on the internet. I'm being loud on the internet. We're all loud on the internet. But like a lot of people aren't like actually doing much beyond that. And like more people aren't even saying something about it. They're just, as I said, complaining. And complaints are so much fun, you know. God help me. But yeah, just to kind of like figure out a way to get back to the original topic at hand. Automata and autonomy. Should automata have autonomy? We don't know yet. We don't know if autonomous should have autonomy. But then the fact that we're creating situations in our world where we're turning other people into automated figures in our minds just to make it easier for us to treat them than less than a human, aka taking away their autonomy, their rights to be feeling safe, their rights to basic humanitarian needs. Like, are we not already doing that? Haven't we already started doing that? Because you will look at someone and the way that they're dressed. Again, like, everybody does it. Like, there's no point in saying no, that everybody doesn't do this. Everybody does it. Whether it's, like, malicious or not, like, we all do it. When we look at someone, we check out what they're wearing. We look at their teeth. We look at their nails. We look at their hair. We look at their eyes. We look at their skin. And all of these variable factors is what ultimately ends up making us choose how we're going to react to this person. If someone comes up to you and they start talking to you and they don't smell good and they've got tarnished clothes and like all of those things, you immediately go on to the defense because you assume this person either wants something from you or wants to do something to you. But then contrast that and have someone very attractive walk up to you and like well dressed and they smell nice and like you can see that like this person looks like they come from money. You are going to be almost 100% more inclined to treat that person with more respect. If you meet someone with, like, for example, like I obviously am a bit more alt in some of my fashions for those who have seen my stuff. But still, nobody treats me the way that they treat other alt people because I've got light hair and light features. Whereas, like, a lot of the other alt people that I know have dark eyes, dark hair, and that's enough. That's enough to treat them differently. And as I'm wrapping this up, because, like, my alarm's gonna go soon to say that I have 5 minutes left, and I always hate that thing. I want to thank all of you guys for using your autonomy of time to come and join me this evening. And hopefully the ones that do join will see that I'm not AI, because like that has been something that has come up before. But yeah, like, again, sorry I'm not feeling so good. Sorry I'm not on like I usually am. But yeah, just be kind. Just be kind to other people, because remember, kindness is giving someone the autonomy that they deserve. And I feel like we all need a little bit more of that in our day-to-day lives. So again, thank you all for those of you who joined. Thank you for those who commented along. It's really fun for me when you guys are here. I'll be posting a highlight reel. I usually do. I'll try to include a video of that automata that I was talking about earlier in the video. And then I'll also try to... I'm also going to add one for the freaking trailer, just in case you guys don't believe me, that iRobot 2 is coming out. And Elon Musk is going to be in there with Will Smith. It's like a whole thing. I don't know what our world is coming to when that happens. I'm very excited, actually, to see how Elon Musk fills this role, though. Like, that's like a whole thing. But, yeah. Again, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for all the wonderful likes. Thank you guys for the gifts. Thank you guys. Just thank you. Thank you again for choosing your autonomy to be here and support me. And like I could be doing this just because like I do this for myself because it's like a stress reliever, but it's also really nice doing it with other people here and like people commenting along and stuff. So yeah, I think that's it from me for today. Again, just thank you guys so incredibly much, and I'll post the event for next week to my page, and I'll see you guys there then. Cheerio.